Welcome to Bikewale. My name is Pratheek and I will be hosting our this week's All About Bikes video where we'll be answering all kinds of questions that you have when it comes to motorcycles and scooters. But before we do that, we have one big announcement that's going to be done in this video, so stay tuned. So let's start taking our first questions, and we have our first question on Facebook. It's from Harshvardhan, and he wants to know whether the Honda CB350 Hness perform, how does it perform in bumper to bumper traffic, and does it heat while riding in the city? So Harshvardhan, in fact, last week we spent many days with the Hness CB350, and honestly, we didn't find any issues when it comes to riding in the city. We didn't find any issues when it comes to the engine head. In fact, the bike is extremely comfortable to ride in the city. The engine is excellent when it comes to refinement. But what we really wanted from the bike is that low-end torque which was missing on this motorcycle. So when you want to overtake in the city, you might have to stay in lower gears and do that, and that might bring in a lot more fatigue when you're riding every day in a city. So yes, no engine heat and overall performance is pretty good on the Honda CB350. Alright, so next question we have is from Ronak, and he wants to know which is a better choice between the MT-15 and the Yamaha FZS version 3. His basic requirements are he needs a bike for city commuting and occasional short tours. Ronak, we would like to say that both bikes are really good for the kind of requirements you have. MT-15 is more, it's more of a, it's slightly aggressive. The brand is all about styling, it's all about performance. Whereas the FZS, it's all about comfort. It's slightly sober when it comes to overall riding experience. When it comes to city commuting, we would actually recommend you the FZS because the motor has good low-end torque and decent mid-range as well, and the overall comfort level is pretty good. With the MT-15, you have to sit slightly on the aggressive side, and that might be a little problem, especially when you're riding a motorcycle every day in a city. So our recommendation is the FZS version 3. That motorcycle churns out really good fuel efficiency. So FZS version 3 is a bike for you. Next question we have is from Shravan Kumar, and he's planning to buy a brand new motorcycle, and his options currently are the FZ25, Yamaha FZ25, the Bajaj Pulsar 220F, and the Royal Enfield Meteor 350. His requirement is he plans to do mainly city riding and some weekend rides, which is going to be rarely. So Shravan, out of all the three bikes, we will ask you to take the Pulsar 220F off the list because it's old bike, right? It's been on sale since many years now. And because it's your brand new motorcycle, we would ask you to choose between the Yamaha FZ25 and the Royal Enfield Meteor 350. Both are really modern motorcycles. Both have been designed taking care of our modern demands. So out of both the bikes, I'll tell you the FZ25 makes more sense for you because the overall riding ergonomics is extremely comfortable. That motor is known for lots and lots of low-end torque, also in the mid-range. And the overall engine refinement is good. The overall riding experience is much better. The Meteor 350 is actually also a good bike, but you can consider it if you're looking at a motorcycle where you want to be the overall riding position slightly on the lazier side, and that is something you might not want while riding in the city because you want to pay attention all the time, especially when you're riding in a metro city, right? You have to filter through the traffic, and not that the Meteor can't do that, it can do it. It's just that the FZ25 makes so much sense because of its seating triangle, because of its low and mid-range torque, and the bike is really good to ride. Next question we have is from Shalar, and he wants to know if there are any updates coming on the 2021 Dominar, any cosmetic upgrades or anything. Unfortunately, we don't know whether he's talking about the Dominar 400 or the 250. But nevertheless, we don't think there'll be significant updates coming on both the motorcycles next year, at least for the next 12 months. Bajaj will continue to sell the current variants. Maximum what we can see is a motorcycle with a new paint scheme. I mean, Bajaj likes to update its lineup with the once a year with new paint scheme or something which looks pretty good. So we can expect that to happen. But in terms of major mechanical change, we don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Next question is from Akash, and he wants a bike that will be using for off-road and highway, and his budget is around between 1.5 to 2 lakhs. He also wants to know whether he can wait for the Xpulse 300. So Akash, as you have mentioned, you're going to use a motorcycle for off-road and highway. Within that budget, you don't have a lot of motorcycles. In fact, if you want to save little money, you can go for the Xpulse 200. It's around 1.35 lakh on road. So if you do that, you want to save some money, and that motorcycle is pretty good in terms of off-road, in terms of city. It runs really well. On the highway, it's not that great. You are looking at a comfortable cruising speed of around 85 to 90 km per hour. It's a motorcycle with not a lot of power, but it can stay at 85-90 km per hour throughout the day, and the engine won't feel stressed. You won't have any weird noises coming out of it. But if you can extend your budget by say around 30,000 rupees more, you can definitely look at the Royal Enfield Himalayan. Again, it's a great city bike. It's a great bike off-road, and on the highways as well. Because of its great low and mid-range, you can look at comfortable cruising speed of 90 to 95. But yes, you have to extend a budget slightly more for that bike. And coming to your second question, can you wait for the Xpulse 300? Actually, I'm going to ask you, can you wait for the next can you wait for 2 more years? Because that's how much time it will take for the Xpulse 300 to come. Because what Hero is doing is they're actually quite happy with the kind of sales the Xpulse 200 is doing right now. So they want to wait a bit more, push that motorcycle for at least next a year and a half, 2. And then when the Xpulse 300 comes, they will get customers from the Xpulse 200, basically the guys who want to upgrade to a bigger motorcycle, and also from guys who have been riding the Himalayan or who wants to get in the world of off-roading, right? That's when the Xpulse 300 will come. So you're looking at a launch date of around 2022, but it will definitely happen. Next question we have is from Karthik. He is confused between the Pulsar NS 200 and the Yamaha MT15. It's going to be his first bike, and he'll be riding it for 40 kilometers every day. He likes the NS because of the slightly power advantage and it's low maintenance, whereas he likes the MT15 because of the gear position indicator and it's much better handling. Karthik, as you mentioned, you plan to ride a motorcycle 40 kilometers every day. I'm assuming it's going to be city to travel, from home to office. And so our recommendation for you will be the Bajaj Pulsar NS 200 for a couple of reasons. First, it's actually priced really well, and with that price you get a lot of features. You get a liquid cooled motor, you get a motorcycle that has good amount of power, and features wise overall, it doesn't get fancy instrument cluster or any other riding modes like the Apache 200. But the main advantage of the Pulsar NS 200 is it's a Bajaj product, right? So it's extremely cheap to maintain the motorcycle. The Yamaha MT15, it's a great bike for sure. It handles excellent. It's light on its feet. It's priced also slightly not very expensive, but it's a Yamaha product, so you get some premium with it. But in case when it comes to service, it's not as cheap as the Bajaj. And in case you break things, which might happen any time when you are riding in the city, it's very cheap to fix a Bajaj motorcycle. So our recommendation for you is the Bajaj Pulsar NS 200. So Anindya is 25. He's a decent rider, and he wants a bike mainly for city and occasional long tours. So he's confused between Svartpilen, the KTM Duke 250, and the Royal Enfield Meteor. He wants to know which is more practical and which is more reliable in long term, and this will possibly his first and only motorcycle. Anindya, would recommend you the Royal Enfield Meteor 350 because it's a great motorcycle in the city. The overall riding ergonomics, the overall weight balance, the load speed ride, it's actually very, very good on the Meteor 350. And when you want to go touring, you can just take it because the 350cc motor has good mid-range as well. So you can comfortably cruise at around 90 km/h. And at the same time, you're looking at a good fuel efficiency figure between 32 km/L to 35. So in terms of overall ownership experience, the Meteor is going to be excellent compared to the Svartpilen and the Duke 250. So we recommend definitely you should go for the Meteor 350. Next question is from Samir. Samir is 23, he is 5'11" foot tall, and till now he has been riding his brother's Splendor Plus, and now he wants to purchase a new motorcycle. He has two motorcycles in his list, the TVS Apache RTR 204V and the Hero Xpulse 200. His requirements are basic. He will be using it for daily office commuting and occasional touring. So Samir, for you, we'll recommend you the Apache 204V for a couple of reasons. Because it's great in the city, it's great if you're taking it on the highway, and if you plan to experience some racetrack as well, this bike is meant for that, right? So in terms of overall ergonomics, in terms of overall performance, in terms of features, the new RTR also comes with multiple riding modes now, so that is one of the best features in this segment. The Xpulse 200 is also a great bike, but it has some limitations. It can be good in the city. It is good in the city, in fact. It is good in the highway, but it has a limited cruising speed of around 80 km/h. Anything above that, you're looking at a lot of vibrations. You're looking at, you're not comfortable. You'll end up getting more fatigue. But obviously, the Apache can take you to a racetrack, the Xpulse 200 can't. So in terms of overall value for money proposition, for you, the TVS Apache RTR 204V makes so much more sense. Next question is from Shambhu Bharman, and he wants to know when will TVS launch the next generation Apache RTR 164V. So Shambhu, there is not really a next generation Apache 160, but there is an updated 164 valve for sure. This motorcycle is likely to be launched in next 5 to 6 months, and this bike will get certain new features like a Bluetooth enabled instrument cluster and some new paint scheme. So I think that will happen in the next 6 months for sure. So let's start taking questions from our Instagram. Karthik wants to know if the NS200 is getting any update, or can we expect a new generation NS200 anytime soon. And he's 5'6" and is looking for a bike which he can commute to college every day and maybe long ride sometimes, and he wants a motorcycle that is cheap to maintain and also gives decent mileage. So Karthik, we don't think the Pulsar NS200 will get any big upgrades or updates in the next few months, because we'll tell you why. Because Bajaj has been working on a next generation Pulsar, and this Pulsar is likely to be a 250cc motorcycle. So we can expect that bike to come in next 2 years, and if you can wait, then it's going to be good. But if you can't wait, you should definitely go and buy the NS200, because when it comes to overall ownership experience, the power delivery, the overall city riding experience, and after sales experience also pretty good with Bajaj, because you don't have to spend a lot of money as you spend on other Japanese brands. So I think you should just go and buy the NS200 right now. But if you can wait, then you will have to wait for at least 2 years for the next generation Pulsar. Next question we have is from Naresh, and he wants to know which is a better bike between the Bajaj Pulsar 150 and the TVS Apache RTR 164 valve. So Naresh, the answer is obvious. It is the Apache RTR 164 valve. The Pulsar 150 is an extremely old motorcycle, and we'll definitely recommend you the 160 because it's a great value for money motorcycle. I mean, it does a lot of things really well, be it in the city, on the highways, on the racetrack. And we were fortunate enough to spend a couple of months with that motorcycle, and we really enjoyed the entire ownership experience. So you should definitely go and visit the TVS showroom and get yourself the Apache 164 valve. Shravan wants to know the comfortable cruising speed of the Xtreme 160R. So Shravan, luckily we have one Hero Xtreme 160R as a long-termer, and we have spent almost a month with it. So we know the exact comfortable cruising speed. You're looking at around 80 to 85, and which is quite decent because it's a naked bike, right? You can't really be going really high speed because it doesn't have a huge windscreen. And when you have a lot of wind blast on the highway, you tend to fatigue yourself a lot more than you can. So it's around 80 to 85 km/h for the Xtreme 160R. So Shubhankar has a budget of 3 lakh rupees on road, and he's confused between the Bajaj Dominar 400 and the Apache RR 310. He'll be using this bike for daily commute and occasional road trips. He also wants to know whether he should wait for the 2021 Dominar. So Shubhankar, as you have clearly mentioned, you're going to do a lot of daily commute. So we would recommend you the Bajaj Dominar 400. One simple reason, because the overall riding ergonomics is far more comfortable than the RR 310. The RR 310, it's a super sport motorcycle, right? So you have to lean a bit, and imagine doing that for every single day for the next 3-4 years. You know, it might not be extremely comfortable for you. So the Dominar 400, it's relaxed, you can ride comfortably in the city, it's easy to filter through the traffic. And that engine, I mean, it has lots and lots of torque at the low revs. So for daily commute, that is what you need. And on the highways too, the Dominar can do speeds which will, cover distance very quickly. And the overall riding experience, overall fatigueness will be less compared to the Apache RR 310. So the Dominar 400 for you, and we don't think there'll be a updated Dominar 400 anytime soon. Maximum you can expect just a color scheme, that's all. And if that's going to happen, then I think that's going to happen at least next 7 to 8 months. Next question is an interesting one. It's from Rolf Reens, and he says that how about I get a Triumph Trident 660 right now and use it for almost 15 years, or get a new 390 Duke, use it for 5 years, and then upgrade to the Triumph Street Triple RS. So we have ridden the Duke 390, we have ridden the Triumph Street Triple RS. Unfortunately, we haven't ridden the Trident 660, which is, I think, expected to be launched in India next a month or maybe 2 months. But we would advise you to first go and buy the 390 Duke, because use that motorcycle for a couple of years, use the power, get used to it. And once you're comfortable, you can upgrade to the Street Triple RS, which is, I think, one of the finest street naked motorcycle in the world. We have spent lots of time with it. It's a fantastic bike. It's a motorcycle like everyone in the Bikewale team loves it. So I think the second strategy makes perfect sense for you. But also one more thing, by the time you plan to upgrade, you might see more better motorcycle in Street Triple RS. So I think it's a win-win situation for you. Buy a 390, wait for a couple of years, enjoy that bike, and then when you have more options, you can always upgrade. So now let's take questions from the YouTube video which we did last week. And the first question there is from Prash FF. And he wants to buy a new motorcycle. His budget is under 1.5 lakhs, and he'll be using the bike in city and some weekend rides. He is comparing the Xpulse 200 with the Avenger 160, but the main thing here is he's 21 and he's around 5.5 feet tall. So Prash, we would recommend you the Avenger 160 for one simple reason: the seat height. It's extremely accessible for you because you are 5'5". The Xpulse 200 might be slightly taller for you. So in terms of overall living experience with a motorcycle on a daily basis, the Avenger 160 makes so much more sense for you. I mean, you should definitely go and ride the Xpulse 200 once. If you think you can manage that bike on a daily basis, you can go for that. But we would suggest you to go for the Avenger 160 for his extremely accessible seat height. Our next question is from Tech RJ, and he wants to know which is a better bike, the Yamaha R15 version 3 or the Bajaj RS 200 or the Suzuki Gixxer SF250. He's looking at comfort, reliability, after sales service, and he plans to tour occasionally. So RJ, as you have mentioned, you're looking at comfort, right? So because of that, we're going to take off the R15 off the list because it's a super sport motorcycle, and you know how aggressive the riding position is. So let's not talk about that bike in this video. Coming to the Pulsar RS200 and the Suzuki Gixxer SF250, honestly, our recommendation for you will be the Suzuki Gixxer 250 because it's a Japanese brand. So you're looking at great reliability, you're looking at good after-sales service, and even though it's a fully fed motorcycle, it's not very aggressive to ride. The handlebar is placed slightly on the higher side, so you can tour occasionally as well. In CT2, you're looking at good torque from the motor, you're looking at decent fuel efficiency as well. So in terms of overall ownership experience, the Suzuki Gixxer SF250 makes the most sense of all these three bikes. Now it's time for our big news, and interestingly it also coincides with the next question from Ask Crazy 4. He is asking any updates on the RTR 310 and do you have an estimated launch date? So according to our sources, TVS will launch a brand new RTR 310 in next 18 months. And this motorcycle will be having lots of first-in-class features. It is supposed to look really good. In fact, our sources suggest that it's going to be one stunning looking motorcycle. And in terms of features as well, we are looking at first-in-class features like traction control system, and it will obviously also come with multiple riding modes. That's the feature which we receive on the RTR 200. So yes, the RTR 310 will happen in next 18 months, and when it happens, it is expected to be one of the finest motorcycle ever made in the country. Next question we have is from Christened R, and he wants to know the real world mileage of the CB350 and the Meteor 350. He also wants to know which bike will be more expensive to maintain after the first three services. So Christened, when we tested both the bikes for city as well as highway, so the overall fuel efficiency figure for the Meteor came to around 33 km to a liter, and for the CB350 also it was around 32 km per liter. So in terms of real world fuel efficiency figure, both bikes are almost on par with it. Coming to the second part of the question, which bike is more expensive to maintain? Honestly, we can't give you an exact answer to this because it depends on showrooms. It actually depends on the brands as well. So, but we think it'll be slightly more expensive to maintain the CB350. Why? Because right now Honda is selling that bike only through their big wing showrooms, right? And this showroom has other premium bikes like the Africa Twin, like the Gold Wing. So they also have a common servicing station. So the technicians who are working on the big bikes are also working on the CB350. So the labor charge is exactly going to be the same, right? So in terms of overall servicing experience, the CB350 might be more expensive. Royal Enfield, on the other hand, they have a vast service network, right? So it doesn't really matter. They're going to use the same showroom space, the service space. They're going to use the same technician who have been servicing, say, the Classic 350 for many years. And that same technician is going to work on the Meteor. So in terms of service cost, in terms of overall experience, we think the Meteor 350 will be more affordable to do it. Aditya Palwe wants to know whether he should buy the Interceptor 650 right now or wait till RE launch the alloy wheel version. Aditya, we know there have been reports about Royal Enfield launching an alloy wheel version of the R650, the Interceptor 650, and it should be here by in February or maximum by March. So if you can wait for a couple of more months, I think it's good to do that, because what if you like the alloy wheel version more than the spoke wheels? So our suggestion for you is to just wait and have a look at the alloy wheel version. If you don't like it, you can always go for the spoke wheel version. And we believe that the company will sell both the variants together at least for a couple of more months. And once the sales of the alloy wheel version picks up, they will obviously discontinue the spoke wheel version. So just wait for 2-3 months and then definitely take a call on it. So Sabari has a very interesting question. He says that a couple of years back, Hero had showcased the Hastur concept. He wants to know whether it will be launched in India. And he has a second question as well. He wants to know any updates on the Apache Avenger 310. So Sabari, the Hastur, yes, it was a fantastic concept that was shown by Hero a couple of years ago. And unfortunately, that bike is never going to happen. In fact, whatever concepts we have seen a couple of years back was actually done by Eric Buell Racing. Hero is one of the few companies that had invested in. but it took a call that none of the concept from EBR will make it to production. So yes, Hastur won't happen, but you might see some inspiration from that bike in next couple of years maybe, and maybe when Hero wants to do big premium bikes. So that's the Hastur news for you. Coming to the TVS Apache Adventure, the TVS Adventure 310, there is very less chance of that happening because when we spoke to a couple of TVS spokesmen a couple of years ago, and they were not really interested in getting into this segment because they believe that the segment is small and they would want to wait and see what happens. So if they believe that the adventure segment is growing in India, they might definitely get the motorcycle because they already have the BMW G3 and GS. But as of now, I think TVS is focusing a lot on their fully fed motorcycle and their nakeds, and eventually we'll also see a cruiser, the Zeppelin cruiser that was unveiled a couple of years ago, right? So we can see these three types of genres coming from TVS in the next few years. Next question we have is from Bengal Rider. He wants to know which bike is better for long ride, the Dominar 400 and or the KTM Duke 390. So we will obviously suggest you the Dominar 400 because that motorcycle is meant for long distance touring. I mean, that engine has lots of torque at the low revs and the mid range, and the overall sitting comfort, the overall sitting ergonomics, and its luggage carrying capacity is also pretty good. So for you, it is definitely the Dominar 400. So Sajin Anthony has written to us. He says that he's a college student, he's in third year, who's looking for a new motorcycle, and he kind of likes the Dominar design. But what he wants to know whether he should buy the Dominar 250 or wait, save some money to buy the Dominar 400. And is it worth the extra 48,000 rupees? He also wants to know what's the mileage in rash riding condition in both Dominar 250 and Dominar 400. Firstly, Sajin, do not ride really fast on Indian roads. If you love speed, if you love the thrill, always go to a racetrack, right? Secondly, you should definitely go with the Dominar 250. Why? Because it's more affordable. As you have mentioned, you want a motorcycle with you like the Dominar design. So the design of both the motorcycle is similar, right? So you can definitely go with Dominar 250. Plus, the overall riding experience, the overall suspension setup, the overall sitting comfort is also good on the Dominar 250. So go for the 250, wait for a couple of years, enjoy that bike, and when it's time to upgrade, you can look at the Dominar 400. So Sauvik wants to know whether he should wait for the Royal Enfield 650cc cruiser or he should go for the Interceptor 650. He is looking for a comfortable highway riding, and he's slightly doubtful about the Interceptor. So Sauvik, firstly, if you can wait for a year and a half, it's good for you because we are expecting the cruiser to come by then. As you have seen, the testing has already started. We have seen a couple of prototypes on the road already. So usually it takes about 8 months to 12 months of testing, and then we see the production model. So if you can wait, it's well and good. Talking about the comfortable riding experience on the highway, the Interceptor can do that. In fact, we have spent thousands of kilometers on it and we didn't have any problem. But yes, the cruiser will offer far more relaxed riding experience, and maybe that is what you're looking at, right? So if you can wait, please do. And if you can't, I think you should just go and buy the Interceptor. Next question we have is from Punta Milan, and he wants to know, can we expect the Duke 500cc bike? So yes, a 500cc bike is happening by KTM. In fact, it's actually not a 500cc, it's a 490cc platform that Bajaj and KTM both are working on it. The interesting bit here is it's not KTM who's developing this platform, it's Bajaj who is developing this brand new parallel twin engine at their Chakan R&D plant. But yes, they are taking some help from KTM. But when it's launched, this will be a motorcycle platform that has been developed in India for India and for certain other international markets. So the Duke 490, like you said, Duke 500 will happen, RC 500 will happen, and even Adventure 500 will happen. So exciting days coming up, and we can expect this new range to start coming into the market in next 2.5 years. Abbas Mandri has a question for us. He says he's confused between the RTR 200 and the FZ25. He says the RTR seems to be a good choice, but he's worried about the pillion seat comfort. and he also says that FZ25 has become slightly more expensive than the older model. He plans to use this bike mostly in the city and occasional tour of around 500 kilometers. And he has a maximum on-road price budget of 2 lakh rupees. So Abbas, for you, we will recommend the Yamaha FZ25 because one simple reason, it offers far more better comfort, the pillion comfort than the RTR 200 4B. I mean, the RTR 200 is also a great bike, especially the new one that was launched a couple of weeks ago with multiple riding boards, adjustable suspension. It's one of the few bikes that offer value for money in the segment. But the FZ25, like you have mentioned, you're focusing a lot on pillion comfort. And we have spent a couple of thousand kilometers with our old FZ25 long-termers, and we really enjoyed the entire experience, be it city or on the highway. So go for the FZ25 and I'm sure you're going to have a very good time with it. The final question for this week's video comes from Ajit Dubey. He actually has 4 different questions. The first one is he wants to know why the bike prices are increased day by day, and he really can't find a good 150cc bike under 1 lakh in India. So Ajit, there are a few reasons, actually 2 main reasons for it. Firstly, because of government intervention. The government wants our motorcycles to have a better safety system like the ABS or CBS. And also you have the emission norms, right? So when you equip motorcycle with new technology, the price is obviously going to increase, right? And during this process, the brands also wants to increase the overall profit margin. So that's why they also take care of the reason the motorcycles and scooters are so expensive right now is because it has the increased cost of the new features and also the brand's profit margins. So that's the reason you see the price of motorcycles so high. Second question he asks is how much GST and other taxes are there on the two-wheelers. So two-wheelers attract 28% GST, right? So the ex-showroom price you see of the motorcycle has GST. It has the original cost of the product. It has the profit of the brand, and it also has the dealer profit. So that is what you have in the ex-showroom. And then you have the registration cost, which also goes to the government. Then you have costs like the insurance, and some bit of that also goes to the government, right? But yeah, looking at a 28% GST on two-wheelers, a lot of brands have been trying to bring down that price. They have been lobbying very hard with the government, but unfortunately that hasn't happened till now, and we don't think that will happen anytime soon. Ajit's third question is, what are the chances of lower CC version of the CB350, aka Hness? Ajit, that's not going to happen. You know, everyone wants to take on Royal Enfield, and Royal Enfield's right now main product is the classic 350, right? So everyone would want to stay at 350cc. So that's why we can't expect a lower displacement or a lower spec CB350 in the future. And the fourth question he has is, he says that can we expect the 220cc Bajaj Avenger Street in BS6 avatar? So here, it might happen in the next few months. It might not happen because Bajaj had told us for 220cc, the cruiser variant was selling more than the street variant, and the number difference was very high. So the company, it made sense for the company to discontinue the street version. But Bajaj is a company that likes to bring back old models when there is a good demand, and they did it with the Pulsar NS200. So if the company sees a lot of people are inquiring for this, the BS6 Bajaj Avenger Street, we can definitely see that happening then. So that's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching our weekly show, and please keep writing to us. We would love to answer all your questions related to motorcycles and scooters. And please don't forget to like and share this video, and also subscribe to our Bikewale YouTube channel.